Caregiving can sometimes feel like an impossible struggle. Caregivers may be torn between taking care of loved ones and trying to maintain balance in life. The good news is that it doesn't have to be that way. The Caring Generation with host Pamela D Wilson is here to focus on the conversation of caring. You're not alone. In fact, you're in exactly the right place to share stories and learn tips and resources to help you and your loved ones. So now, please welcome the host of The Caring Generation, Pamela D Wilson.
This is Pamela D Wilson, caregiving expert, speaker, consultant, and guardian of The Caring Generation. The Caring Generation focuses on the conversation of caring, giving us permission to talk about aging, the challenges of caregiving, and everything in between. It's no surprise that needing care or becoming a caregiver changes everything. The Caring Generation is here to guide you along the journey to let you know that you're not alone. You are in exactly the right place to share stories and learn about caregiving programs and resources to help you and your loved ones plan for what's ahead. Invite your aging parents, spouses, family, friends, co-workers, and everyone you know to listen to the show. If you have a question or an idea for a future program, share your idea with me by responding to my social media posts on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. This week, the conversation responds to a caregiver's question about why you feel emotionally drained. Research confirms that most of us live and react to our emotions versus going through a process of rational thought when interacting with others and making decisions. For example, we go through a day. A compliment makes us feel great. Getting cut off in traffic equals a bad feeling or frustration. Listening to music that we enjoy can result in positive memories. Forgetting an item at the grocery store or misplacing car keys, exasperation. The reason why you feel emotionally drained may be that your emotions are up and down all day. For proof, go through an entire day. Get a notebook, write down why and the emotion you feel each time your mood changes. Being emotionally drained also results from managing emotions and balancing it with logic. So for this program, we'll talk about noticing signs to tell if you are emotionally drained or burned out. Second, we'll talk about how the brain responds to events. Third, how to build up emotional reserves, which is building up the part of the brain that allows us to tackle complicated tasks. And then fourth, how to respond to conflict in situations and have uncomfortable conversations instead of waiting or putting off projects or discussions you might not want to have, but you know you should. Let's begin with the signs of why you feel emotionally drained. Lack of sleep is a top concern. Have you noticed how much better off you start the day when you have had a good night's rest? Feeling energetic and positive is your brain's way of saying, wow, thanks for giving me a break to reset. Thanks for giving me a good night's sleep. Being emotionally drained can result from feeling afraid or threatened by people or events. You argue with someone because you feel your ideas are under attack. Your aging parent was diagnosed with cancer. Your mind immediately goes to the worst case scenario, making you fear what's going to happen next. Do you find yourself dwelling on why other people think the way they do? Or do you watch an event repeat over and over and over again in your mind because you're emotionally upset and you just can't figure it out? Is your self-esteem, dignity, ego, or self-worth feeling a little off-centered or battered. Maybe it's been one of those weeks where one bad thing after another keeps happening and you're done. You've simply had enough. Other signs of feeling emotionally drained include procrastination in making a decision or resolving a disagreement with another person. For example, an aging parent asked you for more caregiving time. While you would love to be helpful, there's no more available time in your schedule. So instead, you feel guilty because you don't want to say no, so you delay having this conversation with mom or dad. After all, you don't want to disappoint them. Situations of conflict where one procrastinates dealing with the issue can grow in size and scope. The complicating factor is that being emotionally drained makes it difficult for the brain to consider solutions to the problem and to act on them. When procrastination occurs, the reasons why you feel emotionally drained grow in proportion to your relationship with the person with whom the challenge exists. For example, maybe mom or dad is sick. Seeing them suffer stresses you out. However, you're more stressed about the increased time they want from you and the complications this causes with your job, going to school, your family, and your free time. On the other hand, the reason why you feel emotionally drained could relate to an argument with your siblings about not contributing time to care for elderly parents. You're doing everything, and they are going on with their lives. You feel the situation is unfair and don't understand why they are not interested in making caring for mom or dad more of a priority. One of the fundamental issues in looking at any situation is the background or context a person gives or what events came before the issue. For example, you have a customer service issue. Finally, after a long time on hold, a live person actually responds. But the person doesn't seem to be able to respond to your concern. It seems more like they are following a script of asking and responding to your questions. The problem, whatever it is important and time sensitive to you. But what you might not know is that the person on the other end of the phone may have come back from a leave of absence due to the death of a parent. Or maybe this person's child was diagnosed with cancer yesterday and they're a little distracted. Now, they don't know the situation you're going through either, to be fair. But in any situation, unless we have a close relationship with a person, and still sometimes not even then, will we ever have the context or the background of what's happening in their life? Or will they have that for us? Taking a moment to understand the context and background is a crucial consideration if the tendency exists to respond to situations from a place of emotions. A part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex, PFC. It's located behind your eyes and the forehead. It regulates our behaviors. Research confirms that the PFC is the brain's executive control that manages our concentration, abstract thought, working memory, our ability to remember things, and to be socially appropriate. Now, the brain's prefrontal cortex, if you are a caregiver, is negatively affected by dementia or Alzheimer's disease. Damage to the PFC is why family caregivers notice that aging parents are forgetful, unable to follow through with simple 1, 2, 3 sequential tasks. Why parents have difficulty problem solving or analyzing information. And at times may exhibit uncharacteristic behavior or make inappropriate comments that your mother or father would never have said on their worst day. The problem is their brain is affected. Chronic stress negatively affects the brain's prefrontal cortex. For example, suppose you are a family caregiver or you're just experiencing stress in any area of life. In that case, you may be mentally distracted, forgetful. You snap, say the wrong thing, regret your behavior, or have difficulty solving problems. This interruption in the functioning of the brain may result from the brain trying to protect you. The brain says, I can't take this anymore, so it's just time to shut down. When mental exhaustion occurs, the thalamus, or the part of the brain in the back of the skull, then can take over. The thalamus is associated with things like food seeking and consumption. So, stress may tell you it's time to eat a box of cookies, a cake, a pie, a bag of chips, drink a bottle of wine, or seek drugs to respond to emotional triggers for comfort. Motivation is a thalamus function specific to goal-directed behavior, learning, and interactions with others. If you feel depressed, anxious, or experience addictive behaviors, your brain is stressed and overwhelmed to the point where your thalamus takes over, and learning to seek help can be a very positive step. Why you feel emotionally drained means that the front part of the brain behind your forehead and your eyes that has all these reserves to help you cope with unexpected situations is just completely worn out, exhausted, burned out. Your brain lacks sufficient strength or mental reserves to respond positively or proactively. So the part of your brain that snaps back to react to fear, threats, or controls shows up. A better response is bypassing this reaction so that you can avoid damaging relationships and even opportunities. If you completed the exercise that I suggested earlier of tracking emotional ups and downs for a few days, or if you do this, you might gain some insights into why you react and think the way you do, which is very important for gaining control over your emotions. With this insight, you can build emotional reserves to respond positively to stress. You can give the logical side of your brain assignments, like evaluating information before responding. So how do you begin? The first step is to observe situations instead of having an immediate emotional reaction. So, for example, an aging parent yells at you. Your first response might be, I don't deserve this when all of my time is committed to helping you. Another response might be, oh, it's going to be another bad day with mom or dad. But what if instead aging parents yell and you just pause, you just watch and listen, and you don't assign any emotions or assumptions about the yelling? Instead, you hold your feelings and you investigate. Then, as you might do for a baby that cries and can't tell you what's wrong, you might begin to ask questions and think beyond the moment that you find yourself in. For example, ask aging parents why the need to yell exists. Is mom or dad impatient, feeling ignored, hungry, in pain, unable to get something they want? Are they angry? But you should also know that it's appropriate to set boundaries and say, I'm here to help you. When you yell, I feel stress and anxiety, which makes me feel bad, and I don't want to help you. So if you want my help, let's find a better way to resolve the concern that caused you to yell at me. This response is an example of having emotional or brain reserves that help you respond immediately to a situation that might feel threatening instead of just bearing the emotions and feeling worse and not saying anything. To further understand why you feel emotionally drained when these situations arrive, compare not responding immediately to how you might have snapped back before you had information about how to be intentional to identify your emotional responses. Stay with me. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back to discuss more about building emotional reserves so that you can have difficult conversations and resolve conflict in the moment instead of shoving it down or putting it off for another day. Caregiving doesn't have to be a do-it-yourself job. My website, PamelaDWilson.com, offers help, support, and education for caregivers and aging adults, including online courses, articles, and more. Plus, this podcast, The Caring Generation, answers questions caregivers ask. It's available worldwide on my website and your favorite podcast and music apps like Apple, Spotify, Spreaker, and others. This is Pamela D Wilson, caregiving expert and advocate on The Caring Generation. Stay with me. I'll be right back. This is Pamela D. Wilson, caregiver, expert, advocate, and author on The Caring Generation. Check out my website, PamelaDWilson.com, where you will find my online caregiver course, my book, The Caregiving Trap, caregiver blog, this podcast, and articles in my caregiver library. Also visit my YouTube channel. There's over 300 videos there. And there's something for everyone on my website, PamelaDWilson.com. Let's return to responding to situations and pausing. Approaching situations from a higher level of emotional consciousness is one way to reduce feelings of being emotionally drained. Because when your emotions hit the roof, only you know why you feel the way you do. Sometimes it could be lifelong patterns that exist that result in the same things happening repeatedly. Do you ever wonder about a particular outcome or result that isn't really what you hoped for or expected? Examples. For younger adults, this might be wanting an A on an exam, but not putting in the time to study because you'd rather go out and play with your friends. On the other hand, maybe you want a promotion at work, but you put in minimum effort versus other colleagues willing or able to put in extra time and effort. Or you want your siblings to help you care for mom or dad, but all you do is yell at them and express frustration. Until we gain insight into why we react the way we do and understand the effect of our responses on others, it can really feel impossible to understand why you feel emotionally drained. The attention that you pay to your thoughts and understanding how and why the brain works as it does when you're exhausted can help you create different thought patterns and responses to manage better and to avoid that mental burnout. For example, mom or dad doesn't feel well today, and this is a repeat situation. Take a moment to think through the steps that you took the last time this happened. Do you take their temperature and blood pressure, monitor oxygen levels, take their blood sugar, or go through a list of processes or questions to identify the issue? Is it time to call the doctor's office or schedule an appointment? Or is the solution giving mom or dad something to drink for possible dehydration, or food because of low blood sugar, or medication for pain or some other condition? While this event with your parents might frighten you and send you into worst case thinking because you've experienced this before, in this case, you remain calm. You know what steps to take, and you go through the process of elimination to confirm the issues. Experience when outcomes and results have been positive is a great teacher. It's also a confidence booster. Success in managing life experiences builds emotional reserve and resilience. Let's be honest, being a caregiver, it's a stressful job. It's work. Caring for sick parents whose health is up and down can be emotionally draining. The solution is to improve skills of all types. Think of the stress emergency medical responders or doctors working in a hospital emergency room experience minute after minute, hour after hour, day after day. These are high-pressure, time-sensitive positions that require a sense of calm and fast decision-making. The same goes for other first responders like fire personnel, the National Guard, and the military. People in these positions, though, receive training and education. Little did you know, the same opportunity exists for family caregivers. On my website, PamelaDWilson.com, there are 2 courses on there that you can take. The first is about how to care for aging parents. It's a total of about 40 to 52 hours, depending on if you take all the modules. There's another one about guardianship, and they are complimentary. There's no charge for these programs. So while you might not think that the role of a caregiver has similarities to doctors working in hospital emergency rooms or emergency medical responders, it really does. How many times have you accompanied aging parents to the doctor or an emergency room? Caregivers sometimes have to call 911 and deal with unexpected situations if elderly parents have ongoing health concerns. For a caregiver, the ring of the phone can be a danger signal that signals something is wrong. So this takes us to talk about fear and feeling threatened, because it does relate to why you feel emotionally drained. Caregivers of aging parents, spouses, family, others deal with real and perceived challenges every day. A situation for one person may not be a big deal for somebody else, or it may be a massive problem for you. A heightened sense of fear or anxiety can happen if we're watching a scary movie, or we may feel the same way if we're rushing a parent to the emergency room. So how can caregivers or anyone tell the difference between fears or threats that are real and those that we feel but they're not real? So in the first part of the program, we talked about taking a moment to look at the thoughts bouncing around in your mind. Something happens. Can you take several deep breaths to bring yourself to the present moment, to focus on what's happening right now, because your brain probably wants to go to that worst possible scenario. Stop your brain. Let's use an example of an aging parent receiving a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or dementia. Depending on your family's experience with this disease, thoughts may immediately go to worries about health declines, who will care for your parents, what's going to happen, and so on. On the other hand, if you know nothing about the diagnosis, you might not realize the importance of doing anything, of creating a plan to care for your parents. So somewhere in the middle of this, receiving the news, when you hear the news, if you can balance your response so that, again, it doesn't sway negatively or positively, then you can ask the doctor what you should know about managing the condition. Increasing your ability to balance emotions with logic can greatly support other people around you, like aging parents or siblings who might think the worst or catastrophize when stressful situations arise. This is the drama that caregivers experience. And as caregivers, we actually contribute to the drama if we can't manage our emotions and our thoughts. Being cool under pressure gives others confidence, and it might help them balance their emotions that can make situations unnecessarily stressful. So the goal is to decrease the drama. Taking the idea of emotional reserves further, let's say that you have to talk to aging parents about moving out of their house because they need more care than can be provided. So instead of dropping a bomb on your parents about moving, without having a plan, create a strategy and a plan for discussion. Investigate options for care communities and how to pay for the community. Learn everything you can about what's involved when parents move into assisted living, memory care communities, or nursing homes. As we discussed, fear of the unknown can be highly stressful and emotional. Gather information so that you have answers to the questions your parents are most likely to ask. Write down a list of pros and cons so that you're prepared for the conversation. While your parents or siblings may be highly emotional about moving out of the family home, how you present the information and your demeanor, the way you present yourself, can steer the conversation in the right direction. Give everybody time to think about the options you provide. Be calm when you answer their questions. Don't be defensive, knowing that they may be coming from this place of emotion, worry, and fear. So in these high-stakes conversations, taking an interest to understand the other person's perspective and be a good listener is extremely important if you want to succeed. Take notes as people express concerns. Ask questions so that you understand. Go back to those concerns, and then focus on solving the problem at hand. The problem in this case is mom and dad can no longer live safely at home. Doesn't matter what we think about it, it's the fact. Evidence that supports this concern includes multiple hospital visits, not taking medications as prescribed, forgetting or not eating at all, frequent falls, and other concerns. As the primary caregiver, you're the person who has to gain control of your feelings and why you feel emotionally drained before you can help aging parents and other people in your family. So find a way to respond to emotions, yours and others, that can include worry, fear, anxiety, a whole list of other emotions, right? Think of and present options or solutions and encourage discussions. Our behaviors and communication affect how others respond and treat us back. The role of caregiving can place you in high emotion and high conflict situations because a lot of times there's disagreement. Until you learn how to respond in any situation, you still might feel vulnerable or threatened. And it can be really easy to fall into comfortable old behavior patterns than to take the time to identify ways to respond differently. If you're wondering why you constantly feel emotionally drained, this may be the situation you're in. You may be unprepared to respond to concerns with aging parents or siblings that keep repeating. You're tired of it. Now, these people, your parents and your siblings, may realize that you're tired of it. They may realize that you are worn down, and so they take advantage of you knowing that you're not going to stand up for yourself. So this takes us to the idea of learning skills to disarm what I call bullies, so people who threaten you, whether it's an aging parent or a sibling. Doing this can be the first step to establishing or creating that emotional reserve so that you can respond calmly and factually. Let's say that one of your siblings says, this isn't an argument, I don't want to fight. What might be your heartfelt response? You could say something like, I don't want to fight or argue. Let's look at the pros and cons, both sides, and come up with a solution that is in mom or dad's best interest. Not an I win and you lose or the other way around. Let's find a win-win for everybody, realizing that this situation is far from ideal. We don't know what we don't know. We could have planned years ago. We didn't. You're my brother or sister. I don't want to damage our relationship beyond a point of no return. Here's another example. Someone tells you you're aggressive or stubborn, or they use another word that seems strong and upsets you. Instead of allowing that comment to pass or just walk away, which could indicate that you agree, think about rephrasing the statement to say, I realize I might appear stubborn, but I'm very determined about X, and here's my Y. I can see that you feel equally strong, but in the opposite way. Can you help me understand why? Rephrasing information to continue a conversation by asking a question can help disarm angry feelings on the other side and truly result in a productive way to resolve disagreements. Let's look at another example. Perhaps you and the family are facing a difficult decision. You can reinforce the idea that difficult situations have happened in the past and you've worked them out, and that you're equally committed to finding a solution for this issue. Or if it's a new situation, ask your other family members what solutions they have. Do they have experience in a similar situation somewhere else in their life that they've solved? Suggest more fact-finding or research so that everyone takes ownership and can work together. Involving others can get you closer to agreement. And if others seem disagreeable, you can always ask for clarification by saying, "Would you explain what you meant by that so that I understand?" Or, "Here's what I heard. Is this what you meant to say? Is this really what you intended?" Emotionally draining situations have a way of making people say things they don't mean. So, giving somebody an out or asking for further information or clarification can be a way to make sure that everybody's intentions are understood. If you're in a situation where there's partial agreement, focus on the agreement to move the conversation forward. You could say something like, "It seems we agree on this, but we aren't quite there with how to make this happen or how to do this. Let's start with what we agree on and see what options we can come up with to solve this issue." So as you can see, there are a lot of options in solving emotional burnout, feeling emotionally drained. It's partly the idea of taking a step back, giving yourself a little time to think about it, monitoring how you respond, your ups, your downs, and learning to train yourself to respond differently. I thank you all for continuing to post questions for this podcast and the videos I create for my YouTube channel. This is Pamela D Wilson, family caregiver and expert on the caring generation. If you're looking for more answers to caregiving and aging questions, visit my website, PamelaDWilson.com, where you will find my caregiving library, online caregiver course, Caring for Aging Parents blog, my book, The Caregiving Trap, plus an extensive step-by-step online program to help you work through the A to Z of caring for elderly parents. I look forward to being with you all again soon. God bless you. Love to everyone. Sleep well tonight. Have a fabulous day tomorrow, and enjoy each day until we are here together again.
Tune in each week for The Caring Generation with host Pamela D. Wilson. Come join the conversation and see how Pamela can provide solutions and peace of mind for everyone. Here on Pamela D. Wilson's The Caring Generation.